Can you hear what I hear? It's Cole losing to me last week.
Good taste.
Hey,
It's in
everyone.
good taste.
It is. It is. Hey, everyone. Welcome to the Bog and Smog Fantasy Cast, and we are smog-free, clear skies. And it's just me and Cole here. We're going to run you through Week 14 as we inch closer to the playoffs. And it's coming, Cole. We were kind of thinking maybe after this past week things are going to get a little bit clearer in terms of who's in and who's out. It maybe did a little bit for some people, but there's a lot of people, a lot of the leagues still not really completely eliminated. How are you feeling after this past week? Like, you feeling down and out, or is there still a little optimism in your veins? How's it going? What's going on?
Well, Tuesday morning, I looked at my lineup for this upcoming week. I'm like, okay, I can win this week. Now, can I get in the playoffs? I looked at all the scenarios. I'm like, I need to go buy a lottery ticket. It's borderline. It's borderline nil. And I know Phil's chances of getting out of the playoffs are the same. They're borderline nil. Like, Phil's almost guaranteed in.
Right.
But it's cool how, I mean, Phil's one game. I mean, if Phil loses 2 games in a row, there's a decent to small chance that he actually misses the playoffs, which, I mean, he's been dominating, so that would be just crazy. I don't know. Do you see that any of that happening for me or him sneaking in or out?
I think you have a better chance of getting in than Phil getting out, and that is simply because Michael and I play each other. So one of us will lose, and I think that pretty much secures Phil getting in.
I would love to. Yep. I would love to play spoiler too. So I play Tanner this week.
Yeah,
and
man.
I would love to put a spike in those playoff hopes and just bury him for the year.
I'm rooting for you. I'm pulling for you.
I thought I was coming out with a W against you, but everybody on my bench decided to perform really well, and the people that have carried my team this year, Derrick Henry and Josh Allen, just didn't do. They combined for 20 points total, and if you look at that all year long, that hasn't happened once. So, props to you for playing me this. Props to you for playing me this week, there, Nick.
Yeah. It worked out. I mean, I think I had you. Either way, my lineup was pretty legit. I mean, we're talking about it. Let's get into it, right? Like, so week 13 was quite the week. You and we had our matchup. I won 136 to 102. And you're right. Like, Josh Allen and Derrick Henry did not perform. And then, over on my side, I must thank you again for that sun god over there, Mr. Amon-Ra, doing work for me, putting up 30. He's been real nice. And then, as always, Josh Jacobs really came out and had a great game for me. And that Dallas defense is always looking real good. So,
they're delicious.
Yeah, I had some good ones. And then, I mean, but you just had some dumpsters here. Gus Edwards, George Kittle, ouch.
Yeah.
But
we move on and we look towards next week. So
That's right. And another person who is going to need to move on and look to next week after taking his first L in a while, Phil, dropping an L, 117 to 134 as Ben comes away victorious, making his way up into that number 2 spot. Only 1 spot behind Phil, and only 1 game. And, like, there's this, like, sneaking, like, feeling that keeps creeping in that maybe Ben, like, is the favorite here, Like, it's just, his team feels like it's been so consistent and good. But he comes away with that victory, and really on the back of Joe Burrow putting up great a great game, and DK and Stephon Diggs really turning it out. And once again, another defense having a great game of San Francisco putting up 18. And Phil did not get all he was hoping for out of the Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes stack. That was the real dagger for him this week. But it's not too bad for him when you're still going to be sitting in the playoffs taking L's right now. So I'm sure he's not happy about it, but he'll be okay. Then Joe came out and pulled a W against Tyler, 124-92, and he climbs up to 6-7, not completely out of the playoffs, and I believe he sits in the 6th spot. So he is 2 games back, but he has a decent point total. I'm looking here, only 36 points. Yeah, 40. Do numbers, Nick. He's about 40. It's about 42 points. God, my brain don't work. It's 42 points back from Tanner. So you can make that up in 2 weeks if things fall right and you get some wins and stuff. So
you can make that up in 1 week. We've seen people get blown out by 100 points in our league this year. So not that it's going to happen again, but 20 or 30 points is super easy to make up in a week, if not even 40, if you really get a good performance from some of your better positioned players.
Yeah, and we know his team can go off, so he's still got a chance, but kind of an outside one, just like you. But what do you see in some of these other matchups that happened where Michael came away with a very narrow victory against Jordan, 108-88. That was the low scoring affair of the week, and Michael squeaks away with a W at 108. What was up with this?
Oh man, this has been a bad year for people making the best decision possible with their roster and then having a player going out in the middle or the first half. It's just been terrible. So Lamar went out. There's 1.3 points that easily should have been 20. And you add 20 points to Jordan's team this week, and there all of a sudden it's a game. So, do you pick a week where 2 players do it? Okay, he did. Sutton went out early too. So, I mean, wow. I would just I would stay away from ladders and like black cats, Jordan. I mean,
yeah, luck is not on his side.
Yeah, he started off the year super strong, and Lamar is looking top notch. And now Lamar, I think they're talking, is possibly not even contention for playing this week and possibly even the next couple weeks. I think they're going to be extra cautious as they try to tune up for the playoffs here. And then on the other side of the ball, Michael Tweeden, I have thrown a lot of negative comments your way throughout the year, talking about how your team's no good and I don't see you finishing off the year well. And keep proving me wrong. I do enjoy seeing. I love being humbled. Jamar Chase coming back in his first game. It was really nice to see him throw up a pretty decent stat line there, 7 for 8 with 97 yards. So I think his team is also playoff ready, just like Phil's and Ben's and yours too. And it's not going to be difficult to get in there and throw up some big numbers. So I think he can easily duplicate this performance again.
Yeah, we'll see. I hope not. I've got him this week, and we'll get to that.
Ooh.
But the last one is the tight one of the week, the closest one we had, 131 victory for Tanner over Ethan, 125.8. In this one, last play of the game on Monday night, I'm sitting here thinking, is Ethan going to pull this thing out? And then Brady throws to a running back and goes in for a touchdown. I'm like, no, he did not just do that. Wrong running back, Rashad White, wasn't Lenny. And Tanner's able to walk away with the victory. But I know Tanner must have been on the edge of his seat with the heart racing for that one. But Jalen Hurts has been a great acquisition for him, stabilizing that quarterback spot. If he had been sitting with Russell Wilson all year long, yikes. But they went and got Jalen Hurts, and it has hurt so good for him so far. But
Yep.
yeah, and he's kind of the other team, right? That is looking at the playoffs and saying, "I got a shot."
Oh yeah, yeah. He's in the 5 spot, but he has the same record as the next three teams above him. So to say that there's not an avenue in there would be totally wrong. And yep, this is another team that I fear playing because a lot of these players have shown throughout the year big games are possible.
Right. But you're going to beat him this week, so it's going to be great.
You bet.
All right. But we can't move on too quickly because something smells. And
oh, it stinks. Oh,
it's sour.
Oh, that reeks.
Oh, it's a bungle. It's Bible's biggest bungle. And this week, the bungle is Ethan coming over with that 6-point loss. And why, you say? He must have started a great lineup. He scored 125 points. That doesn't deserve bungling. Well, it does when you start Tyler Algier. Okay? Don't start Tyler Algier. Ever. Just write that down. It's like Kevin Costner on draft day. You pull it out. You pull it out of your pocket, and it says, "Never Tyler Algier." Okay? James Cook puts up 13.5 points, and that would have given you the W in this one. And I'm trying to take a look. I'm just trying to understand this decision.
So Atlanta's been not going 100% with Cordell since he's been back yet. They, for whatever reason, want to see Mariota running the ball. They want to see Algier running the ball. Huntley still gets like 4 or 5 carries a game. It's literally, I mean, I agree with you. It's a questionable start for the fact that like Atlanta's offense hasn't been good and their backfield is a mess. So to have any piece of that in the game scares the crap out of me. But maybe here's the thought. I'll give Ethan credit. Maybe he was thinking, okay, maybe Cordell goes out or something happens to Cordell. Maybe this is my only way to slingshot into a big game. And maybe he didn't see, Cook on his bench as somebody that had that upward to get a 15 or 20 point game.
Yeah.
I'll give him. What do you think?
Yeah, I'll give him a little credit. I was just looking back. So the week before against New England, James Cook only had 2 carries. So, all right. I get it. But I think it still stands because over the last 4 games now, Tyler Algier has not exceeded 7 points. 6.9 is his highest performance in the last 4 games. So I stand by never Tyler Algier.
I will remember that.
But that's the bungle of the week. But not everything's a bungle. Sometimes we make moves, we make some transactions, we get a little better. We get our teams juiced up a little bit. And this was actually a week where I was actually pretty excited for the waiver wire this week. I thought there was a few different moves to make, especially with the injuries we've mentioned. What was your favorite transaction of the week?
I'll talk about the fact that I think there was only one transaction I didn't care for. How about that?
Okay.
DJ Dallas, we know Kenneth Walker right now is a little banged up, some jammed ankle.
Jammed ankle.
Yeah, I like to figure that one out. He might play, he might not play. They're still not sure. But then the problem is, I think every other running back that played last week is also banged up. So it's a juggle. And don't get me wrong, picking up any running back, I mean, at this point in the year, It's not a bad idea. I mean, DJ could go out there and have a great game if he's healthy, if that's how it falls. But there's just so many question marks. I don't think we're going to know until later in the week. So either I sound smart today by saying DJ Dallas, terrible pickup, or I sound really dumb next week when you're watching this because he'll be right there as the RB1 or something on their team.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, but every other pick or every other pickup, I agree with you. This was a week where I thought, as we get closer to the playoffs here, there's a lot of pieces that people need to shove in their lineups quick to make that extra push. I'll talk about one more, and then I'll put it back on you. My favorite, other than my pickup of Kansas City, maybe you can talk to that, but my favorite was actually Hunter Henry, for the simple fact that they play Arizona,
Yes.
and Arizona is, if you ever watch the Fantasy Footballers podcast, Arizona, they'll attest to it, and the stats don't lie. Arizona just lets any tight end do whatever they want in that game.
Oh, yeah.
I think they're 32nd in the year for giving up fantasy points to tight end position. So Hunter Henry, a great pickup, possibly even a future pickup, depending on how New England uses him. He's a little iffy with Jonnu Smith in there too, so it can fluctuate. But I think a good start this week, and easily a plug and play if you need it for Michael's team.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. I do like Hunter Henry as a pickup, and you mentioned it, calling out your own pickup as your favorite. I actually was going to say that is my favorite, just because I think you locked up your defense for at least 2 weeks, right? Kansas City against Denver, yes please. Kansas City against Houston, yes please. So that was a good pickup. I really like that, and you snagged them for free. And this is a personal, so I'm going to talk about my own just because I really like it. So I am a Tyler Huntley truther. If we brought Jordan on the podcast, he would tell you this. I have texted him like the last 2 years whenever Tyler Huntley is playing is like, why is this guy not a starter somewhere? I think he's legit. He's better than, I don't know, like, he's better than Baker Mayfield. He's better than, like, Clive Wolford and stuff like that. Like, this guy deserves to be a starter, and he is a free agent next year. And actually, I think he could have some value still end of this year. So I'm curious to see what Tyler Huntley can do. So
and
I like him.
We're pretty shallow actually right now at quarterback position. So I think picking up anybody that's going to start and play, and I don't know how many games has Huntley played, Nick?
So
or started at least.
Yeah. So really, last year is the only year where he actually started some games, and if you look at that stretch, he put up 15 points against Cleveland. Nothing crazy. But he rushed 6 times for 45 yards. Love to see it. And then against Green Bay, and maybe this is why, because I was watching this game very closely, and he destroyed them.
Yeah.
He threw for 2 touchdowns, rushed 13 for 73 yards, or 13 rushes for 73 yards and 2 touchdowns in that game, putting up 36 points. So I like Tyler Huntley. I think he's got he's got a shot. You know, he's still young. He's only 24, and this is also
Lamar's in his contract year, so
yeah. I mean, they'd be crazy not to re-sign Lamar, but yeah. And I'll say this: he's not really putting up any worse numbers than Lamar has been the last few times. Like looking at what he's done, and I am not saying Tyler Huntley is Lamar Jackson. I'm just saying they don't have weapons there. So anyone not putting up stellar numbers in Baltimore, I don't think is an indictment on how good they are as a player.
So never start Tyler Algier, and Tyler Huntley is just as good as Lamar Jackson. Got it.
Right.
That's my takeaway for today.
Right. Send it out there.
I'll rewatch this video in a few months here and go, wow, Nick was right.
But that's the transactions. You know what I wasn't right on? I was not right on my pizza party lineup last week. I'm buying this week for Jordan. He's getting a za whenever he so requests it. Come off my streak. I think I had won 3 straight. And Michelle had mentioned, she's like, we've had so much pizza lately. I'm like, it's not a problem. Like, this is a good thing. Don't worry about it.
I think it was the pizza belly that might have started weighing on your brain that you weren't picking right because you had too much pizza.
It was. So now I'm paying back into the pool. So Jordan's going to get one, but let's just you and I do our quick little rundown of who we're setting up in the pizza party this week. And I'm just going to say this before we get started. The pizza party is a great way to keep a little competitive spirit going as we get into the playoffs and fantasy football is over. You know what I mean? Like actual NFL playoffs. So let's keep that in mind. But here, I'll kick it off. And I talked about him. He's my man, Tyler Huntley, for 5,500 against Pittsburgh. He's in my quarterback spot.
I'll let you do that. I do not like the matchup, but you know what? I'll say this later on in some of my picks. I want to be proven wrong. You know, I'd love to see Adam go out there and do the exact opposite of what everyone else is anticipating to perform. So, no, interesting pick. So we'll see how that turns out. And I do want to say, piggyback on what you were saying. If anyone just wants to get a little bit deeper in the fantasy world, I promise you it's more enjoyable. So, I mean, I trust it's not even that much of a leap. Me and Nick probably spend a half hour or not even an hour, maybe at the most, picking these players. We'll walk you through it if you want to join the pizza party, and if you don't even want to be part of the pizza bet, you can just join in and with us, and we'd love to see your picks and just have more fun with you involved. So
I agree.
Feel free to come on in and just let us know in the group chat. We'll get started. So my quarterback this week, Jared Goff.
Jared Goff. I love it.
He is 5,600, very affordable, playing a Minnesota Vikings defense that has let wide receivers and quarterbacks just destroy. And he's averaged, I think, 20 points in every home game this year. So I think that's an easy so I'll lock that in for 20 points minimum right there. So
it's probably safe. I, on the other hand, at my running back spot, I'm going back to the well. He didn't pay off last week, but I'm going to believe in him. Nick Chubb, 7,800 at running back, and then spending down at Mr. James Cook. We've talked about him a bit. So 7,800 for Nick Chubb and James Cook against the Jets for 4,600. And we'll see if he gets to continue the workload that he had last week.
I love those picks. I was honestly flirting with both those players. I went Saquon. I think another player that's been performing at a high level, had a couple bad games in there. He's still 8,000, but I think that even might be way under what his actual value is this week. And then another Detroit Lion playing against the Vikings, coming back, starting to be the number one running back in that offense, DeAndre Swift. Last week, he actually had almost 20 fantasy points in full PPR, which is the first time he's eclipsed that since week 1. He was out with injuries. But now we're seeing him. I mean, he does have a questionable tag with a little ankle thing, but I see the Vikings game being high points. I think a lot of people do. The over-under is like 53 on the game. Yeah. Once again, I think Minnesota's defense letting anybody do whatever they want to do. They've been better against the run, but if I were to be proven wrong, I said this earlier, I'm very happy. So prove me wrong. Score 0 Swift. Score 0 Goff. So who did you have at wide receivers, Nick?
Yeah, I'm sitting here. You're talking about the Minnesota-Detroit matchup, and I'm realizing I don't have anyone from that, and I hate it. But my wide receivers are, this is where I spent up a little bit on the first two here. Tyreek Hill at 8,800 going against the Chargers, and Jamar Chase against Cleveland at 7,900. And then rounding it out, we spent down. We went and got myself a little Mac Hollins for 4,400 against the Rams tomorrow night.
I think that's solid. Yeah. And speaking of the Rams game, I got Devontae Adams going in that for 8,900.
Yeah.
Until they stop throwing him the ball, I'm going to keep putting him in my roster. So Phil's been the benefactor on his fantasy team for that. So I'm going to start reaping the rewards. And then at the next two wide receiver positions, I went budget. I have Zay Jones for Jacksonville playing Tennessee. I've called it right for Jacksonville wide receivers 3 weeks in a row now. I called Zay Jones' big game. Then I called Christian Kirk last week's big game. So I feel like I'm just going to keep doing it right. Zay Jones this week having a big game for 4,700. And my last one, I have Chris Moore? Christian Moore?
Chris
Moore. Chris Moore. All right. 3,400.
There you go.
I think he's got 6 or 4 receptions in the last 2 games total. But he had more targets and receptions with the returning Davis Mills. So maybe he gets a little bit of uptick. Can't talk. And then makes that 3,400 maybe a good purchase there.
Certainly saving money at the very least.
You'll figure out
taking
why.
A shot. Okay. I went and grabbed another piece of that Jacksonville passing attack. Evan Engram, 3,300 is my tight end. And I double tight ended this. We're real tight. Real tight this week. Gerald Everett for 4,300 is my flex against Miami. Coming off a good game last week. He had quite a few, what was it exactly? It was solid. He had 5 receptions for 80 yards. So I think he's getting healthier after being hurt and getting more integrated back into the offense. So I like that. And then my defense, I'll just round it out. I went with the Raiders against the Rams. It's just the Rams have just been giving up sacks and turnovers. And, I mean, the Raiders aren't even they're not even a good defense, but everybody against the Rams looks pretty good.
We've said it in other matchups, too. Like, the Rams, you don't even need to explain it with how bad they've been. Yeah. You can just expect them to keep doing what they're doing. So that's not a bad pick at all. The reason why I was spending down at wide receivers is I could afford the this year's cheat code, and that is Travis Kelce.
Mm-hmm.
He performs at a wide receiver 1 level in a position that there is no competition for tight end.
Right.
So 7,600 against Denver. He's actually averaged 21.6 fantasy points, which if you compare that to the next 2 tight ends, is like 10 points higher, which is just ridiculous. So I'm going to try to capitalize on that. And then, speaking of tight, I must be in the gym too because I went double tight end.
Nice. Real tight this week.
I'm firming up the butt muscles.
Tighten that stink.
Hunter Henry. Do squats. Hunter Henry.
Okay. Yep.
I mentioned him earlier. Arizona, plug him in. 3,200 only. I think it's a smash play. I think at minimum I'm getting 6 points there. And rounding it out also with a midline defense, I got the Steelers. So I'm actually hoping that your Tyler Huntley pick is totally wrong. But once again, prove me wrong. Baltimore has just been a mess offensively. I think that's kind of partly that them not having a wide receiver, their running backs never being healthy and consistent, and Lamar having to try to piece everything together around that. Just, it's not fair to put the blame on just Lamar here. But I am hopeful that Huntley can somehow grab some dust and magic it up and just throw it around the field, and things just fall the way they need to for him.
Don't you worry, he will. I believe. All right, that's the pizza party lineups. Like we said, you can always jump in and join us. Just let me know. We'll get you integrated into the group. But let's move on and talk about what is coming up this week, because this week is when it's going to get clear, right? We're 2 weeks away from the playoffs.
It has
to start clearing up, right? Okay. So let's connect the strings, do a little math here, and figure out what's going on with these playoff situations. So, top of the order here. I am playing Michael this week. We're both sitting at 8-5. He is favored currently 127 to 118. I am dealing with injuries now. Even though I like my team for being very deep, I'm dealing with an Alvin Kamara bye week, a Curtis Samuel bye week, and then, Ken Walker is hurt, and that is not helping me. So, I'm dealing with a little thing, getting a little thin in some spots, but it still should be a good matchup. So 118, 127 is what we're projected here. Now, the loser of this game is going to be in a little bit of a tough spot because Ben is playing Joe, in which he is favored by 10 points. So if Ben walks away with W there, and if Tanner were to win, then the loser is going to be a game back from the pack, if that's how it plays out, right?
Right.
So that is why I am very much so a Joe and Cole fan this week. Ben and Tanner, you guys need to lose. I'm pulling for you guys down at 6 and 7. Come on up and steal one of their spots, not one of mine. Okay.
How do you think this game is going to fall? You think you're going to pull it out?
So I'm scared because of, honestly, it's just Devin Singletary, because he didn't get as much work last week, but he generally has throughout the season. And I don't know, I feel like they do trust him more than James Cook, so I'm hoping he continues to get some work and can, do well. I don't know. I like Michael's chances better than mine. I'm sitting here wondering if I should even be playing Dak, because we know Houston's terrible, but that has actually translated to you don't want to play your quarterback against them, especially when Dallas likes to run the ball so much already.
Yep.
And
that's what I'm scared of too for you.
And then
I think they're going to shut him down by the third quarter.
And Dameon Pierce is on the other side of that, where I think Dallas is going to beat him up completely, and Dameon Pierce could put up another one of his little 3-point games because he doesn't get carries because they're behind so far. So there's a lot of things I don't like. Deebo Samuel's got a new quarterback. He who must not be named is throwing to Amari Cooper. There's a lot of things this week that are not in my favor, and I think Kirk Cousins and Justin Jefferson have very nice matchups. I think Jamar Chase has a really nice matchup. I think Josh Palmer, if Mike Williams is out, has a really nice matchup. So I think things are very much so in Michael's favor. So if I were to go and put money down on who is going to win this game, it would be Michael.
Yeah. I'm sorry I picked him too. That's my pick for the week.
So I hope I'm wrong. But we will see.
Yeah.
We will see. Let's jump in. Let's talk about this Joe and Ben matchup that I mentioned. What do you think about this one? Like I said, Ben is favored by 10, currently projected at 129 to 118 or 119 for Joe.
I'm going to try to just diagnose Ben's team by who I'm not feeling great about, and that is basically Schultz is iffy. He's been coming on strong. He's been getting more involved,
Hmm.
but it's the same problem that you're worried about with Dak. It's like, do we need him? I mean, if they get out early with a big 21-7 or even 28-7 lead and it's halftime, man, they're going to play till up to the middle of the third quarter, and then they're just going to let the clock run. I mean, there's no reason to get players injured because they're not thinking about their fantasy season. They're thinking about making the playoffs, and you can't do that with banged up players. So that scares me. Adam Thielen has been bad this year, but I think he's got a really great chance. So that's a coin flip there, I guess. Now I was worried about it, but the matchup is so nice. It's
Yeah.
maybe if Justin Jefferson doesn't carry a huge game, Thielen's the benefactor or Hawkinson. So I do see a lot of upward potential on his team, though, for others' positions. And then on Joe's team, every single player is capable of a monster game other than maybe his tight end.
Hmm.
Although I will say, pronounce that last name for me, Nick.
A Conquo.
It's lovely.
It's got to
It's
be right.
like hearing
Okonkwo.
a
Yeah.
conquo. I don't know what it is. Just it rolls off the tongue so wonderfully. He did get some utilization last week. I think that's more of a future play because he's a rookie. But
Yeah.
if that pans out, I think honestly Joe has just as much a chance as walking away with a win in this game. So I'll root for Joe just because I don't see Joe having a very good chance, just like me, of getting into the playoffs. So I'd rather have him make some noise and get you 8-5 boys a little
Make a sweat.
shaking in your seats. Yeah, make the sweat happen.
You know who I'm pulling for?
Who do you like
I,
here?
I got to lean Ben, but like I said, I'm a Joe. I'm a Joe backer this week. I am all in on Joe coming away with the W. I hope it happens. You know what else I want? I want Tyler to beat Phil. It would just make me so happy. They're playing this week, and it's gonna be tough. Phil is favored by 47 points. Currently, Tyler doesn't have a quarterback in though, so that'll adjust it,
Yeah,
or a defense. So he'll make some moves. He's got Jimmy out, Aaron Rodgers on bye, so that's tough. His defense is on bye, so he'll make some moves and get some things figured out here. I don't want to talk about this one too much. I think Phil's gonna win. Like,
he's been doing it all year.
I will say this. Tyler's team, when you do look at it this week, I mean, obviously the quarterback spot's
Yep.
gonna be weird, but I like almost every single one of these matchups, right? Of DeAndre Swift, Ezekiel Elliott against Houston, Hopkins is just always super involved. Evans, you could see that game going in a direction where you can't run on San Francisco, so you're probably gonna have to pass. You called Zay Jones, Noah Fant
Hmm.
is a wild card.
Yeah,
Jamal Williams against Minnesota could do some work. So I like these guys. It's just you don't have the firepower of Travis Kelce and Austin Eckler and Mahomes on the other
yep.
side, right? So I'll just say that I like Tyler's team, and it's going to continue to get better. So.
Yeah, I think the path is narrow for Tyler's team to pull it off. If he can get 20 points from a quarterback that he streams and maybe 10 points from his defense, I see this game being very close, actually. But until that happens, yeah, it's a unfortunate victory for the guy that's going to be walking into the playoffs that I live with. That's going to just remind me that he's got the first
Sitting
seed,
pretty.
and
I'm feeling my team
must
too.
be nice.
Uh, and then Jordan is going up against Ethan. Now, Jordan's still technically not eliminated yet. Got a chance. He's 6-7 also, sitting a little bit further back. points wise, so the point differential is going to be really tough for him to come out of this here. But he gets 2 straight wins, and everyone else completely falls apart. Maybe there's a way this can happen for him. But this week, I do like his chance of coming away with a W. He's going with a double jet start, which I don't think is something everyone really wants to do at wide receiver. Garrett Wilson, I'll give you, but Corey Davis is horrifying. But that's what you get when Treylon Burks is hurt, Drake London is on bye, and Cortland Sutton is out. So, man, I don't know. Sky Moore, Corey Davis, what you doing? Oof. But what do you see in this matchup?
I'll say that I'm not as fearful about throwing in Corey Davis here for the fact that a lot of his stats this year are a little skewed because he was hurt and he also had Zach Wilson. Not that Mike White's going to have a huge game, but I do see a lot better potential for him to have a baseline game there. But yeah, at the beginning of the year, you could talk about one or two teams having or not the beginning of the year, but the middle of the year, you could talk about a couple teams where you could feel comfortable starting 2 wide receivers. And the Jets weren't one of them. Maybe they work that way there in the future. Maybe this is one of those weeks where me and you are both wrong. But yeah, it's too scary to do for me. But yeah, I mean, could you pick the right one? I mean, obviously Garrett Wilson's been looking better, but we could have a Zay Jones, Christian Kirk situation here where you don't really know until after the week's over who was the wide receiver one.
Right.
So, but yeah, I agree with you. I think I like his team probably this. Well, now I'm starting to look at.
I lean Ethan's way.
I think,
and this is why
do you?
Yeah, and this is why we've
let's
talked about
Let's
this.
hear it.
Ethan's team goes as Miami goes, and Miami's got a juicy matchup against the Chargers. So I like Tyreek. I like Raheem Mostert. I don't know if Jalen Waddle's going to play or not. That could be.
Jalen Waddle got a limited practice today, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
which is actually good for a
it is
Wednesday.
pretty good.
Like most of the time, Wednesdays are walkthrough practices. A lot of players don't practice on a Wednesday.
So maybe then he's in, and then if that's the case, I think I'm in on Ethan's team. If Jalen Waddle's out,
yeah, like.
I don't think I'm in on Ethan's team because he's got to start like Van Jefferson.
Right, and he can't start Tyler Edgier.
You can't put him at
He's on bye.
And
this week you can't do it.
Well, you can't put him at wide receiver, I should say. So.
Yeah, and I do think Cook. I know last week was the first week that Cook really took over the snaps. I do think they're going to probably have a split backfield if I were going to speculate on this game.
Right.
Because, I mean, it wasn't like they were blowing out last week when they played. Geez, why am I spacing on who they played last week?
The Patriots.
Buffalo Patriots. It wasn't like they were blowing them out the whole game. And you would think. And, well, actually, to be fair, in earlier games this year, they were using Singletary in games where they were blowing him out too. So I don't know, maybe Cook's just going to get more and more involved. Either way, I think it's at worst a 50-50. So
yeah, they both had like 45% of the snaps last week. So
yeah,
it wasn't like he took over. It was just they split it last week. So
yeah, and I mean I saw it when we were playing him. He just looks more explosive. Obviously Singletary's a name that we've seen stats from, and we can make a better judgment on what kind of production we're going to get. We're going to get anywhere from 5 fantasy points to 25, depending on how many touchdowns he snags, because they don't really pound the ball, but they use the pass game for the running backs. And I mean, Cook did see some. I think he got a couple passes last week. Did he not?
Yeah, he got like 6,
he actually
I think.
6 of them. Oh boy, I was way underestimating.
Yeah, great week. But yeah, we'll see. I lean Ethan on that one.
Okay.
But how do you feel about your matchup? I'm for you. I'm biased. I want you to win. Derrick Henry destroys Jacksonville always. So I'm pretty happy about that. I'm happy about the Pollard versus Houston matchup. I always like Josh Allen. We'll see if Gabe Davis can snag one of those touchdowns. And Lockett's got a good matchup. Like, you got a lot of good matchups here. Cam Akers has a good matchup and actually seems to be getting the ball. Earlier in the season, I was
Right.
like, never, dude, not Cam Akers, but he looks like maybe he's okay to start now. It looks like he could be all right.
Trade bait for 2023
That's
coming
right.
up.
And you look across the way, and Tanner's got like a couple questionable things going on. Like, does Amir White get what he needs? DJ Moore is always a wild card. Ayuk's a wild card, especially with this new quarterback situation. Is Hollywood, back and really at it? So he's got a couple question marks outside of his Saquon, Jalen Hurts, CeeDee Lamb lineup. That's always horrifying.
Yeah, to look at his team versus my team, I'm definitely worried. But I do think it's projected to be close. I think it will be close. I'll give myself the nod, and hopefully I can make these playoffs more exciting for you, Nick.
Yeah.
I would love to, but at the same time, if Tanner takes care of business and you get knocked out of the playoffs, or you won't be out, but the path will get much harder for you next week. Then, so I, this time of year, every football game is about twice as exciting as it is normally.
It is.
So
We're pretty.
I just can't wait. I can't wait for it to start.
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to Thursday night already.
we're pretty much in the playoffs already for all of us 8-5 teams right now. So, it's very exciting time of year. And speaking of time, we're out of it, Cole. The time is running out on us. We are fading into the darkness that is the end of the show. And it makes me sad.
Sad.
But you know what doesn't make me sad? Is knowing that we'll be back with you next week. But for now, this is the Bog and Smog Fantasy Cast. And we are signing out. Thanks, everybody.
See ya.